Imagine being born with just $1 billion.
Yeah.
You know, perfect health, endless influence.
Right, the absolute dream scenario for most people.
Exactly. Society basically tells you that you won the cosmic lottery.
Yeah.
But then you discover that the universe didn't actually give you a reward.
No, it actually handed you an eviction notice from paradise.
Yeah, and that is exactly what you, our listener, have asked us to look into today. You've handed us a truly paradigm-shifting text by author Su Feng, and the mission of this deep dive is to completely flip the script on how we view privilege, wealth, and cosmic justice.
Which is, I mean, it's an uncomfortable thing to do, right? Because that assumption is just deeply embedded in how humans operate.
Oh, totally. We are taking the incredibly common assumption that wealth is a cosmic reward and poverty is a punishment, and we are just throwing it right out the window.
Yeah, and the source text takes this idea, specifically the notion that being born rich means you were like a saint in a past life, and it rigorously dissects it. The author doesn't just use one framework either. They pull from multiple philosophical and religious lenses to argue that we have this cosmic equation completely backward.
So, okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with where this assumption usually comes from. The text begins by examining a very popular kind of street-level interpretation of karma.
Right, the one you often find in certain Buddhist circles.
Yeah, exactly. The idea is that if you're born into a wealthy family, it means you accumulated a massive amount of merit in a past life. You were good, so now you get a yacht.
Right. You get the yacht, you get the mansion, it operates like a like a cosmic credit score.
And if you're born into poverty, well, your soul must have failed. But the source material immediately challenges the mechanics of this assumption by asking us to define the actual end goal.
Which is so important, because if we are operating within a spiritual framework, the ultimate goal isn't material wealth.
Yeah.
The ultimate goal is paradise, nirvana, heaven, escaping the cycle of human suffering altogether.
And if the goal is escaping the material world, why would the universe reward your spiritual progress by chaining you to a mountain of material wealth?
It makes no sense mechanically.
Right. To dismantle this, the author brings in a heavy hitter from a completely different tradition, Jesus Christ.
Yes, quoting that really famous verse, "It is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for someone who is rich to enter the kingdom of God."
It's such a vivid image. But let's look at the actual mechanism of what's being said there. If the ultimate objective of a human soul is to reach heaven, and having extreme wealth makes it practically impossible to squeeze through that door, then how on earth can being born rich be considered a reward?
Well, it can't be. Mechanically speaking, if a so-called reward actively prevents you from crossing the ultimate finish line, it isn't a reward at all.
No, it's a roadblock.
Exactly. It functions perfectly as a punishment. It is a spiritual exile.
You're being benched. The universe looks at you and says, you don't have what it takes to advance to the next round, so we're just going to put you in the luxury suite so you don't get in the way.
That is exactly it. You're benched. And what's fascinating here is how the text explains why wealth acts as this barrier.
Right. It's not just that God dislikes rich people.
No, not at all. It's that wealth actively degrades the psychological machinery you need for spiritual growth, which brings us to the question of how this punishment by reward actually alters human behavior.
Yeah, and the author has this secular analogy in the text that, I mean, it perfectly captures the insidious nature of this trap.
The kid with the candy, right?
Yes. They describe a child who has a terrible habit of cursing and insulting everyone, just a real menace.
Oh, yeah.
One day, an old man walks by, and the kid just unloads on him, hurling insults. And most people would discipline the child, right?
Right, you'd scold them or tell their parents.
But the old man doesn't. He smiles, walks right up to the kid, hands him a big handful of candy, and praises him. He tells the kid, "Wow, you curse so beautifully. You have such a talent for insults."
So he's rewarding the exact behavior that will eventually ruin the child's life.
Exactly. It's like giving a reckless, impulsive teenager the keys to a high-performance sports car.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Right. Because it looks like a spectacular, generous gift. But because they lack the maturity and the boundaries to handle that machine, you aren't giving them a gift. You're guaranteeing a catastrophic crash.
Because you are actively removing the friction. Natural friction facing consequences, struggling, experiencing pushback, that is the only mechanism that forces a human being to adapt and grow.
Right.
If you remove that friction with unearned rewards, you ensure the person will never correct course. And the source connects this specific psychological trap directly to Taoist philosophy, quoting Lao Tzu.
Oh, lousy.
Right.
He is all about the mechanics of nature. How does he frame this?
Well, he wrote, "To weaken something, you must first strengthen it. To overthrow something, you must first support it." And the text pairs this with another proverb. When heaven wishes to destroy something, it first makes it mad.
First makes it mad. That is chilling.
It really is.
If the universe wants to destroy a person's character, it doesn't send a lightning bolt. It sends unearned wealth.
Right, it gives them the candy. Think about the psychology here. Granting someone immense unearned wealth severs their vulnerability feedback loop.
Explain that a bit more. What do you mean by the vulnerability feedback loop?
Well, empathy requires a shared sense of vulnerability. When you have so much money that you are insulated from the consequences of your actions, you detach from reality.
You don't need anyone else.
Exactly. That detachment is the madness Lao Tzu is talking about. It induces profound narcissism, and once a person is driven mad by their own invulnerability, their destruction is inevitable.
Wow.
So being born into that isn't a blessing. It's the universe setting you up for a spectacular, unrecoverable fall.
Okay, but if Lao Tzu is right, and unearned wealth is a mechanism for destruction, does the universe just leave us to suffer? I mean, if a trust fund is how heaven destroys you, how does heaven actually build a person up?
For that, the author turns to Confucianism, specifically the philosopher Mengzi, or Mencius.
Okay.
And Mengzi outlines a process that is essentially a brutal cosmic test ground.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Brutal is definitely the right word for it.
Oh, absolutely. He argues that when heaven is preparing to place a great responsibility on a person, it actively subjects them to profound deprivation. It starves them. It exhausts their muscles. It actively disrupts their plans and actions.
Wait, I have to push back on this
Oh.
because for me, this borders dangerously close to romanticizing poverty.
I can see why you'd say that, yeah.
Right. Like, we know scientifically that poverty causes immense cognitive load, trauma, and physical deterioration. Doesn't extreme trauma often just break a person rather than forging them into some great leader?
That is a very fair point, and it's a crucial distinction to make. Mengzi isn't saying that all suffering is inherently good or that trauma is a magical cure-all.
Okay.
He is pointing to a specific mechanism of resilience. The text explicitly says heaven does this so that their determination and endurance are awakened and their abilities are enhanced.
Ah, I see.
Think of it less like blindly smashing a rock with a hammer and more like muscle hypertrophy.
Oh, okay. Like a biological process of building muscle.
Right. To build a physically stronger muscle, you literally have to subject the existing tissue to stress and resistance until you create micro tears in the fiber.
Because the damage is what signals the body to rebuild it denser and stronger than before.
Exactly. Without the resistance, without the tearing, there is no growth. Mengzi is arguing that the human spirit works the exact same way.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture for you listening,
Yeah.
think about the paradigm shift here. According to this text, if heaven views you as a worthy investment, it will purposefully place you in a position of hardship. It will drop you into an environment without wealth or influence, precisely because that resistance is the only way to induce spiritual hypertrophy.
Hardship isn't a sign of cosmic failure, it's proof of cosmic investment. The universe trusts you enough to put weight on the bar.
That completely turns the cultural narrative upside down. But let's look at the mechanics of karma again. What if someone genuinely did do a massive amount of good in a past life?
Okay, yeah.
Let's say they spent 80 years building orphanages and meditating. Don't they mechanically deserve a payout?
The source actually anticipates this exact question. It steps away from ancient philosophy and introduces a concept that sounds almost like spiritual physics.
Spiritual physics?
Yeah, the law of zero-sum energy.
Zero-sum energy. Walk us through how that actually works.
So the premise is that the sum of positive and negative energy in the universe always balances out to zero. It treats spiritual merit not as a vague concept, but as a finite, measurable unit of momentum. And remember, the highest possible achievement is reaching heaven or escaping the cycle. That requires a massive accumulation of positive energy, like needing enough rocket fuel to break Earth's gravitational pull.
Okay, so if I spent my past life being an incredibly good person, I have a massive tank of rocket fuel.
Exactly. You have the momentum required to ascend. But here is the mechanical catch. You have the choice of how to expend that energy.
Oh.
Yeah. If you choose to cash in those merits now, if you convert that spiritual potential energy into material kinetic energy to buy a mansion, political power, and a life of luxury in the human world, you deplete the tank.
Wow. It's like going to an amusement park, and instead of using your tickets to get into the actual park,
Oh, I like it.
you spent all of them in the gift shop outside the gates.
That is a perfect way to visualize it. You get a really nice foam finger, but you miss the ride.
Right.
By enjoying those blessings in this temporary human life, you are literally burning through the exact fuel you needed for ultimate salvation. The energy is spent. The sum returns to zero.
So even if you earned it, taking the payout in the form of material wealth is a definitive punishment because it grounds you.
Yes.
You bankrupt your soul for temporary comfort.
Precisely. It is a brilliant mechanical explanation of why wealth acts as a barrier, tying perfectly back to Jesus' analogy of the camel and the needle. The camel can't fit through the needle because it's carrying too much baggage.
Too much from the gift shop.
Exactly.
So we have Jesus saying wealth blocks heaven. We have Lao Tzu explaining the psychology of how lack of friction induces madness. We have Mengzi showing how resistance builds the spirit. And we have the spiritual physics of zero-sum energy. But then the author asks a really sharp question. If all of these major systems say wealth is a detriment, where on earth did we get the idea that wealth equals good karma? Is it actually in the Buddhist texts at all?
This is where the textual analysis of the source gets really fascinating. The author goes straight to the foundational root of these values.
The Diamond Sutra.
Yes, the Diamond Sutra. And their conclusion, after scouring the text, is stark. This idea that wealth equals spiritual reward is a complete cultural fabrication.
Wait, really? It is nowhere to be found in the Diamond Sutra.
Totally absent. In fact, it contradicts the core mechanics of Buddhism. The text points out that the Buddha preached no form of self and explicitly warned against dwelling on physical manifestations.
But let's dig into the why of that. Why is dwelling on physical manifestations opposed to enlightenment?
Because reaching nirvana mechanically requires the dissolution of the ego. It is the realization that the boundary between you and the rest of the universe is an illusion.
Okay, I'm following.
But what does extreme wealth do? It builds an increasingly massive fortress around the self. It buys private jets, private islands, high walls, things designed to separate you from everyone else.
There's that quote in the source, all conditioned phenomena are like dreams, illusions, bubbles.
Right. If the physical world is an illusion, how could the Buddha possibly teach that acquiring more illusions is the reward for a pure soul? Seeking enlightenment through the lens of material wealth breaks the very machinery of Buddhist philosophy.
So what does this all mean? Because this isn't just an abstract debate about energy and philosophy. These beliefs dictate how we organize our society and how we treat each other.
They have brutal, real-world consequences.
If a culture walks around believing that the rich are rich because they were saints and the poor are poor because they were sinners, the author argues that this is a complete betrayal of the concept of compassion.
It is the ultimate endorsement of the status quo, dressed up as spiritual wisdom.
It is. You end up flattering people who already hold all the power. But infinitely worse, you look at someone suffering through generational poverty, someone starving, and instead of helping them, you say, well, you mechanically deserve this. Your soul was corrupt.
Yeah.
The author says this conceptually stabs the poor in the heart.
Because it removes the societal obligation to intervene. If someone's poverty is a divine punishment, then helping them would be interfering with cosmic justice.
Wow. That is dark.
It is. That logic completely hollows out boundless empathy, replacing it with a transactional, outsourced victim blaming.
Which leads to a very heavy question that the source poses at the end. The author asks us to scrutinize our own motivations.
Right.
If you are practicing a religion, meditating, or donating to charity, and your secret motivation is just to ensure you're born into a wealthy family with a yacht in your next life, are you actually engaging in spiritual growth? Or are you just running a transactional scheme?
This raises an important question. Are you trying to transcend the human condition, or are you just trying to buy a first-class ticket on a sinking ship?
Man, that is a powerful way to frame it.
The author leaves us with this heavy dichotomy. Is this transactional view of karma the teaching of the Buddha, or is it the temptation of the devil?
What an incredible journey this text has taken us on. Let's just look at the ground we've covered today.
Yeah, it's a lot.
We started with the deeply ingrained assumption The human wealth is a cosmic sums up. But by weaving together Jesus' warning about the camel, Laozi's mechanism of unchecked power causing detachment, Mengzi's framework of resistance as hypertrophy for the soul, the physics of zero-sum energy, and the core ego dissolution of the Diamond Sutra, this source material completely dismantles that assumption.
It replaces a shallow consumerist view of the universe with a profoundly challenging mechanical reality.
And for you listening, this offers such a radical new lens for viewing your own life. When you face a massive obstacle, when you are exhausted and your plans are disrupted, the natural instinct is to think, what did I do wrong? Why is the universe punishing me?
Right.
But this text invites you to ask, what is the universe preparing me for? What spiritual muscles are being torn and rebuilt right now? Your roadblocks might actually be the most profound form of cosmic investment you could ever receive.
And conversely, it asks us to be highly suspicious of a life without fiction.
Oh, absolutely.
Which brings up an entirely different implication of this text that we haven't even touched on yet.
Lay it on me.
If hardship and resistance are the ultimate cosmic training ground for the human soul, what happens when we successfully engineer all the struggle out of our lives?
Oh, wow.
Think about it. If we use artificial intelligence, extreme convenience, and helicopter parenting to systematically remove every obstacle from the next generation's path, are we actually giving them a utopia? Or, based on everything we've learned today, are we artificially severing their only mechanism for spiritual evolution?
Wow. We might just be handing them the candy. Keep questioning those easy answers. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.